If you ask me, everybody in this theater is a giant sucker. Especially you!
It isn't abnormal for a movie to take a concept and just poke fun at it. However, there are some movies that choose a different target for their joke. Sometimes the very thing a movie is making fun of is the audience. This could be a loving nod to the film's fans.
Why do you have to make it personal?
Or a not-so-loving portrayal of audiences in general.
Oh yeah, give me some.
However, there is no example that comes to mind more than The Menu. Whether it be an attack on the wealthy versus the working classes, or foodie culture in general, every detail about this movie is satirical by design. It is all part of The Menu. And today we will be looking at one group in particular this movie tries to call attention to that I didn't see get noticed as much as the others. Us, and also how we can all improve. So, shall we begin?
Yes, sir!
The story of The Menu follows a woman named Margot who is taken by her date to a secretive restaurant set on a far-off island. It is there she and a group of very rich elites take part in one of the most prestigious dining experiences in existence. The island's inhabitants are all professional cooks who have dedicated their lives to achieving the singular vision of the genius chef Slowick. This vision extends far past the traditional dining experience, as it means not only the deaths of his staff and himself, but every patron present that night. However, Chef Slowick is not the film's villain. This is something that may seem shocking to some, even if you have seen the movie. By all means, he is the conniving mad genius who has sentenced several people to their deaths, but he is not really that much of a villain. An antagonist, sure, but not a villain. From the character's conception on the pages of Will Tracy and Seth Reese's beautiful script, there was always something that made Slowick a different force than most movie antagonists. Then, when Mark Mylod signed on to direct the movie, you went even further with that idea. He met with Ralph Fiennes, and the two of them talked about this character. When we spoke about the chef, neither of us wanted a movie baddie. We'd speak about Anthony Hopkins and his manifestation of Hannibal Lecter, for instance, and how fantastic that was. We didn't want to approach it that way. I'm sure that Anthony didn't approach Hannibal as a baddie, but what we did see was an artist in pain and specifically consumed with self-loathing for the bad choices he'd made, and that was the key secret for me. I suppose that my connection to Chef Slowick was my recognition of all the bad choices I've made in my attempt to be an artist, and my attempts to try to put that right. And when you view this entire movie from the lens of Chef Slowick being a stand-in for a filmmaker, there is yet another layer added to this piece. This not only changes who Slowick represents, but then you also get a clear picture as to who each of the other characters are supposed to be. In fact, the movie isn't even subtle about that.
You represent the ruin of my art and my life.
This firstly makes sense in the text of the piece. Each one of these people have sought to exploit the chef or even the entire culinary world in one way or another. However, it is in the subtext that this statement bears so much more weight. Chef Slowick thinks of himself as an artist, and the food he crafts is his art. Any of you who have ever tried creative pursuits know just how symbiotic that relationship can be. Chef Slowick has to continue to make his art even if he truly despises the people he is making it for. That is just who he is. As for the people at the restaurant, they don't represent the people who make, they only represent those who take. The movie's opening scene does quick work at establishing the ensemble we will be spending the movie with. The first thing it shows us is our heroine Margot and her date Tyler at the dock. Then, as the two prepare to board the boat, we get to meet the other people dining with them that night. There are three businessmen whose company has ties with Slowick's restaurant. Next to arrive is an older married couple. Then, there is a famed restaurant critic with a lackey who just affirms and runs with literally everything she says.
I'm really feeling this is quite...
It's half great. It's there in moments.
There in moments.
Finally, a movie star whose career is on its last legs and his assistant. Now, that is a pretty large cast of characters, and yet all of them exist to signify a different element. Chief Slowick is the artist, which means the way he expresses all his thoughts and feelings about these characters is through food.
Food is theater. Food is comedy, food is drama, food is satire, and the idea that you're pairing that experience with the structure of a film made perfect sense to me.
So the movie reveals the roles and flaws of these characters through their food. This is how the director can explain in a succinct way the harm that a critic can do. Art is truly subjective, and so the idea of any one person's opinion on it having more weight than others always has felt a little odd. This is made even more odd when that person's opinion can make or break someone's entire livelihood. This is both true in movies and in professional cooking. They are both intense, highly collaborative forms of expression that there can be so much painstaking detail put into. So Slowik prepares a dish to specifically bring this to her attention.
What are they, Will?
They're restaurants. That I reviewed that all closed.
For his entire career, Mark Mylod has felt the pressures to succeed. When I first started to direct, I wanted that theatrical career. But my early movies weren't very good, to be honest, so I had a lot of growing up to do. The Menu was actually his first attempt at directing a movie in a decade, after his previous movie, a rom-com called What's Your Number, was absolutely torn apart by critics. After that, he began focusing on television, where his work was viewed much more fondly. He has been both loved and hated by critics his whole career, and so he is well aware of the wreckage their words can leave behind. However, there is another type of person that can do even more wreckage to an artist's work.
You're working money. Yeah, baby. We're pathetic, aren't we?
Filmmaking exists in an interesting space when it comes to art. With painting, you don't need anyone's approval to paint. You can just go out and get yourself a canvas and cheap paints. For a musician, all you need is an instrument or even just your voice and you can still perform. With all of these mediums, money will help for sure, but it isn't technically needed. However, movies are really expensive. So if that is your chosen field and you don't have all the money and resources to spend, then you have to get yourself investors. That is something you see Slowik has to deal with in the cooking world. The three rich guests all work for the same benefactor who is paid for everything Slowik has. Now because of this, Slowik has to extend his services and sacrifice his vision anytime they want special treatment. If he wants to continue to do what he loves, he has to appease his angel investors. So, for his final dish, he decides to toss out any restrictions, and in order to do so, he needs to take care of their boss.
Sam, do you hear it? Do you hear that silence? Listen, can you hear it? That silence means I'm free.
Without the ties to any investor, his art cannot be compromised. Slowik's entire thing is that he truly loves and is passionate about what he does. In his eyes, there is absolutely nothing worse than an artist who does not care about their craft, which is why the actor had earned his way onto the island. In all of his dialogue, you can hear his character talk about his projects with little respect or reverence. His projects all seem trivial to him, as he doesn't care what he is putting out into the world. He is everything that Slowik refuses to be. As for the rest of the people there, they represent everything that we, the audience, are to a creative genius.
Wait, you like this?
Oh, yeah.
He's basically insulting you.
No, you don't get it. It's a concept.
As the movie lays it out, there are basically three types of audience members. There is the married couple. Now they have been to the restaurant multiple times. This is a huge deal for most people. However, they never actually engage with what is being presented in front of them.
Please tell me one dish you ate the last time you were here. One, please.
And yet, they can't. They can't name a single dish or detail from the dinners because they didn't go there to actually take in the food. They only wanted to be able to say that they went. Just how there are those who will go to see a movie literally just to say that they went, or to seem as if they have an interest. That is why they, by Slowik's logic, deserve to die. That is why they all deserve to die.
It doesn't work if you live. Why not? It needs an ending that ties everything together conceptually. Otherwise, it just tastes good and who cares?
For the ending to work, everyone needs to die. Well, all but one. Margot exists as an audience surrogate in more than one way. She is both us in the sense that she is our way into this world of cuisine and casualties, as well as she is supposed to represent the most of us. It is repeatedly made clear that she is not like the others. She has never been a part of that world. She lives in a world without fine dining, without all of the overcomplicated showmanship. The thing is, that used to be Slowik's world too. He hasn't lived there in a long time. He no longer is making the simple dishes that brought him joy. Now he is trying to constantly outdo himself to satisfy an audience who will never be satisfied. Worst of all, when you try to appease everyone, you often fail to satisfy the person who needs it the most.
I don't like your food.
What did you say?
I said I don't like your food, and I would like to send it back.
Margot is the general audience. She is the average person who has very simple goals when they go to see a movie. They want to be entertained. They want to be able to relax on their one day off and just escape. Listen to the wording chosen for her in these lines.
You've taken the joy out of eating. Every dish you've served tonight has been some intellectual exercise rather than something you want to sit
and enjoy. You're a chef. Your single purpose on this earth is to serve people food that they might actually like, and you have failed. You failed, and you've bored me.
She isn't just calling out the dishes, she is calling out the creator directly. By trying to make his work so highbrow and nuanced, he failed to achieve what he was really after. He could not make something that could satisfy a regular person, the kind of person he was when he fell in love with food. He made something that could only be truly enjoyed by someone just as obsessive as him. He made it for someone like Tyler. Tyler is the last kind of audience member, and his kind is the real villain of the movie. He is someone who is absolutely obsessed with not just food, but the process of it, the ethos to it, and even the idea of it. However, he does it to an unhealthy degree. He is the cinephile that we all know, where they have one auteur that could do no wrong in their eyes.
Like, you know how people idolize, athletes and musicians and painters and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those people are idiots. What they do, it doesn't matter. They play with inflatable balls and ukuleles and shit. Chefs, they play with the raw materials of life itself and death itself.
He is the type of person that will explain every minute detail of what is happening to the person watching it with them. By doing so, he is literally taking over the artist, trying to say it to appear smart for pointing it out.
Sorry, chef.
It is perfectly fine to analyze a piece of art, to engage with it. That is not what this movie is making fun of. But if you are actively ruining other people's ability to enjoy it, then you are the type of person this movie is against.
You are why the mystery has been drained from our art. You see that now, don't you?
Sorry, Chef.
There is a quote that has been equated to a lot of things, but is very true here. The point of satire is to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. So if you feel as if this movie has afflicted you, then it has done its job. By making fun of certain types of audience members, it can remind people to focus on what matters, experiencing the thing put in front of you.